Season 3 begins today in our Utah Tech Gremlins Team Builder Dynasty in the Big Ten. We'll be facing off opening week against BYU for the second consecutive year, although this year I expect it'll be much more even as I previewed at the end of last episode, we are up to an 84 overall team. Some key senior transfers that were 4 stars along the defensive line, I think, really helped with that. Massive development from our elite development backfield, Mo Asamua and Anthony DeBeer help that. Apart from these 2 sophomores, it's really senior heavy at the top of this roster. I wanted to build a team that could be much more competitive this year around the flashes that we saw from guys like Asamua and Anthony DeBeer. When the roster around them allowed them to shine, they showed some really nice things. And so I think this year, not only should we be able to actually compete in the Big Ten, but with an 84 overall, you got to think that the expectation is a bowl game for this season. Whether or not we hit that, time will tell. But it is still week 0, not yet to week 1, so it's time to talk about some recruiting here. And looking at it, we are already locked out of some players, so that makes it easy as to whether or not we'll go after them. A couple of our 5 stars already have reached their top 8s, as well as one of the speedster receivers. I put a lot of receiver options on the board. I felt like it was one of our bigger needs heading in, so we've got a lot to choose from here. So I'm seeing Willie Byard not having any offers yet, which excites me, but we have the ability to go after one 5-star player because of the 2 conference wins in sim that we got last season, each being worth a half of a 5-star. 2 halves is 1 whole, and there you have it. So none of these guys have us on their board yet, so we have to think of somebody who might not reach their top 8 next week. I do think D'Angelo Wilbon will reach that top 8, so despite the fact that he is the only 5-star that we have a pipeline on, it's not going to be him that we're pursuing. We have 2 corners on the board. I think there's a chance that we enter the top 8 for either of these guys before they reach their top 8. The guy I think looks the most attainable here, though, might be Masafilo. And that sounds crazy because all 9 teams that are on this screen right now have offers to him, but there's not one that doesn't have plenty of offers, right? The scary part with a guy like Walter Jones, that's a tier 5s and tier 4 pipelines on all those guys that have offered. A lot of tier 5 pipelines here. The same for Masafilo, but looking at those increases, it seems attainable. Just because we can recruit 5 stars, though, doesn't mean we're actually going to land one. And based on how these guys are being recruited, I'm not sure if we're really going to be able to stay in the race with any of these guys, considering the one guy that we had a pipeline on was Wilbon, and I just don't think 1 week of 50 hours is putting us on his board in the top 8 before Oregon gets him to his top 8. So the question becomes, do we want to go after a linebacker or one of 2 corners? These 2 corners are remarkably similar in terms of their attributes, mental abilities. Walter Jones has another one, but 3 compared to 2. Daniel Mears does have a gold one, but it's roller coaster. I'm not sure how positive that one is. It's easier to get great composure, but it's also easy to lose composure. He is 6'2", though, so I think overall I'd probably prefer Mears. He really likes that offer from Georgia, though. They're both being offered by Georgia. And then James Masafilo, what you love about him is he's got platinum knockout already. Doesn't have like elite speed or anything, but you just hope that he'll not have capped quickness. I think I've made my decision on which of these two corners I'd rather have. I think it's Daniel Mears. Mostly the 5'11" to 6'2" difference is ultimately what did it. It's just which of these two guys do we go after. For now, let's start putting some hours on some of these other guys. We only found 2 gems in our scouting. We found another linebacker, so maybe this pushes us towards the corner because we do have a linebacker, a 4-star gem that likes us. In fact, I think that's gonna end up making my decision for me. We're going after Daniel Mears. Just by moving on, I ended up making my decision. So one thing I do know for certain is, especially with this receiver right here, we want to put 50 hours into him. He's not being recruited. Is there anybody else that doesn't have any offers on our board right now? There's usually 1 to 2 guys. He's the only one this year. So I can give 50 hours to 8 players and then 25 hours on 4 players. So we got to use those wisely. This 6'8" tackle, gonna be one of the guys I'm putting 50 hours into. This year more than previous years, there's not a lot of guys that actually had us on their board from the get-go. So we have to think about, like, if a guy's going to reach his top 8 next week, like Wilbur's reaching his top 8 next week. So is Perkins. Blade might not. So I had 5 receivers on my board. We might already be down to 2. Because I don't think 1 week's going to be enough to get us on the board for J.D. Wilbur with the 6 stash. Or Deontay Perkins, who we have that 2-star pipeline. I would have loved. Yeah, he's practically already in his top 8. It's tough to see that working out for us. Although, let's see. We might end up only being... If we decide that we're not going after either of these guys, because if 50 points isn't going to do it, 25 points isn't going to do it. So we might as well take both these guys off, and all of a sudden, we only have 10 guys on our board left that we can go after. So we could just put 50 hours into everybody. That removes all the stress of decision making. And 10 guys, 50 hours each. We'll see who we can stay and play with long term. As suspected, Wilbon did go into his top 8, so good decision there not to go after him. And we might as well just take these guys off our board too, because they're reaching their top 8 next week, unless we don't think we can make it on Mears. I think the progress we made compares to Miami and Ole Miss. We still have a lot of room to make up. Doesn't care about playing time, which would have been one of our great pitches here. I'm not going to give up on Mears. And if I'm not going to give up on Mears, that means we're not putting either of these guys on our board, which means all our eggs for 5 stars are in the Mears basket. But when you can only go after one, there's only so much you can do. Brody O'Neill is being heavily recruited by Utah. We did just barely reach his board, though. So that's why I think our bar looks so much smaller. We know he likes playing style, which we are an F at. That sucks. And if he likes proximity to home, even though we should be an A+, we're a D-. So there's that. BJ Vierling is being heavily recruited by Wisconsin. Jumped into first for... Bayard. We just barely got on the board for Blade. We made by far the most progress for Neely. Just barely got on the board for Crispin. And just barely got on the board for McClendon. Number 1 for Thorne. So out of all these guys, I think Vierling's going to be really tough. O'Neill could be tough. It's still too early to say. And then Mears is obviously going to be very heavily contested. Nobody that I'm going to give up right now. But if we don't see good stuff, I mean, we could get to the top 5 next week for BJ Vierling. So we have proximity to home and championship contender. One's good, one's only average. But if our third pitch is good, then I think there's a chance we could overcome the tier 4 pipeline. That looks like, apart from the 5-star, the toughest one. I did, just like receiver, I put several different offensive linemen, although he's currently the only guard on our list. So better to get out on these early, but I want to face BYU before I start to remove players from my board. Last year, this game was rough. We started it well, down by a single score going into the half, but ended up losing 41-3, did not score a touchdown. Can the much improved Utah Tech Gremlins perform better? I certainly hope we can perform better. The question is, can we come out with a victory? We're coming out with a deep pass down the left sideline to Dorian Thomas, the blocking tight end, getting an explosive catch to start the season. Not on my bingo card. Going deep again for the freshman Shakir Chubb, but he can't haul it in. The give instead to Anthony DeBeer. He's weaving through traffic, and he's going to the crib. Touchdown, Gremlins. We couldn't do it a season ago against the Cougars, and we did it within the first minute of the game here. Explosive plays by both of our stud sophomores now. Mo with the great throw down the left sideline, and then what a run here by DeBeer, using his blocks perfectly to score. Tavian St. Clair. This is not week 1 for BYU. They did play in week 0. He threw 5 touchdowns in that game. The transfer from Ohio State. It's fun to have in this rivalry a couple of really good quarterbacks who are also the same class. Of course, Tavian is a redshirt sophomore, while Asamoah is a true sophomore, but seeing these guys progress simultaneously has been fun, and hopefully we continue to see that for a couple of years, although Tavian might go to the draft. Depending on how he develops, Mo Asamoah might go to the draft after his junior year as well. 1st and 10 over the middle. BYU driving right down the field here. 1st and goal now from the 5. St. Clair will find the end zone with his tight ends falling forward for the tying score in this game. I wish there was a little bit more variety in the touchdown celebrations in CPU versus CPU. Everyone goes to that one. Like, everyone. It's a neat celebration. It's not like the worst celebration ever, but I wish there was a little more variety in those celebrations. 3rd and 10 for Utah Tech. Mo, plenty of time. Eventually goes to Thomas. He had to lay out, and it's off his hands. I didn't show the punts, but look at this field possession after the punts. It's instantly taken away with a big play by the Cougars, but actually being able to force opponents to drive down the field is going to be the biggest upgrade we're going to have this season. Yeah, Mo Asamoah and Anthony DeBeer went up like 10 overall. That's not the biggest upgrade. The fact that teams, when we have to punt after 1 first down or 3 and outs, won't instantly be able to be in field goal position will be the biggest improvement on the season. BYU just unable to get the connection in the end zone, but they will take the lead 10-7. That's what honestly has me hopeful, and that's honestly the reason that I couldn't end up watching more games last year, is just every time we punted, like here at the 27-yard line, they'd have it at the 40. Now, they did actually get a good punt return here, so they'll still have good field position, but would have been inside the 40 probably last year already. The give with a wide open hole up the middle. BYU, just like us, is led by some star-studded players in their backfield offensively. And here's one right now, Tavian St. Clair breaking free on the read option to get the Cougars inside the 10 just like that. They'll send the running back in motion, give it to him here now. Breaking tackles and finding the end zone again. BYU has looked very good offensively. 17 points now in the first quarter. Just put some pressure on the Gremlins to get some success going offensively. They had a couple of explosive plays on their first possession. Haven't had much since, but back-to-back first downs by the true freshman Shakir Chubb have them in BYU territory. Finding Chubb again. It's been all Shakir on this drive, but we're stuck in a 3rd and 9. We haven't done great in 3rd and long. It's a hard spot to do great in, and we keep going to Dorian Strong in these 3rd down spots, and we're just unable to get the connections. That could be one of the things we struggle with, having a blocking tight end as our tight end 1 this year. I just think he's such an aid in the run game, and we need our run game to be better this year, that he's just going to be on the field for us. And there's Anthony Lacumbo, another true freshman, making his mark early on in this ball game. We did not get any pressure on Tavian St. Clair at all in the first quarter. And the true freshman with his first sack has a Gremlin. 3rd and 15. They're going to go with a safe play here, a nasty spin, but it's only going to pick up 2 yards. St. Clair with already 150 yards passing. But we finally force a Cougar punt, and now we have a chance to tie this game. Asamoah goes to the screen on 3rd and 4. Had blockers in front, needed to make one man miss, and we couldn't do it. So finally we force a BYU punt, but we instantly go 3 and out. Great play by Ricardo Ramsey there to force a loss, but a good 2nd down play made it 3rd and short again for the Cougars. 1st and 10 now for St. Clair over the middle. Decent coverage, but St. Clair with a money throw, and now he's keeping it on the read option again. Had a great play with that in the first quarter. The second quarter going by quickly here, already down to 3.5 minutes remaining. Another great throw by St. Clair. He has been absolute money for the Cougars in this first half. Going up and snagging this ball for the touchdown. That was a very Malachi Coleman-esque touchdown from last year. Just mossing the DB. And the Cougars now have 24 first half points. It's JoJo Phillips trying to make things a little closer here before we head into the half. Going to the flat. DeBeer has the speed to move the chains. 1st and 10 again. Mo Asamoah back to the air. Has Yannick Smith near midfield. 3rd down. 40 seconds remaining, and it's going to be just a couple inches short of a first. And we're going to punt it here on the last play of the half. So close. I think with that much time remaining in the half, you go for it on 4th and inches from that part of the field. Hopefully it doesn't come back to bite us. A little too conservative for my blood to end the first half. And starting the second is Tavian St. Clair using his legs. He's destroyed us in the air, and he's destroyed us on the ground. He has just been looking like a Heisman candidate for the Cougars in this game. And this is again coming off that 5 touchdown performance last week in week 0 as well. 3rd and 3 for BYU. Into the flat, and a nice tackle by Carmen. Forces, we'll call it 4th and 1.5. Can the Gremlins get off the field without allowing any points? The give is not close. Ricardo Ramsey with a tackle in the backfield. Cougars are left with nothing. 2nd and 14. Tyler Nystrom will move the chains for Utah Tech. Pumping and firing on 3rd and 4. This time, the connection with Dorian Strong is there for 6. We are back to a one-score ball game. Whether or not we win this game, it is clear that this is... I think I called him Dorian Strong. It's Dorian Thomas. That's my bad, Dorian, for saying your name wrong. One thing is clear, though, that we are a much better team than we were last year. This was just not even a remotely competitive ball game last year. And now, with a fumble into a score, we are tied. It's the two senior transfer 4-stars combining to make that play. They've been quiet so far, but Sincere Edwards with the pressure and the forced fumble, Vic Burley with the scoop and the score. It is 24-all. The give on 3rd and 8 comes up just short, so now BYU, another conservative 3rd down call, has them punting the ball. We're trying to avoid a 3-and-out ourselves. Going deep is Mo Wasamua for Tyler Nystrom. And we give the ball right back to BYU. But again, this change in field position actually gives our defense a chance in these scenarios. All in all here, with just probably one play remaining here in the 3rd, we're going to go in to quarter 4 with a tied ball game here. The sack here likely going to be a drive killer. Whoa, they took a shot at Mo after the play. No flags somehow. So we've got a tough 3rd and 16. BYU sends the blitz and gets home again. We had 1 sack allowed through the first nearly 3 quarters, and then we get 2 back-to-back here, nearly 2 and 3 plays. And that drive, that's going to be blown up in the backfield. Ricardo Ramsey making some nice plays tackling in this game. 3rd and 14. BYU's play call selection in 3rd and longs has been very conservative in this game. Mo tries to fire it over the middle. Did not see the lurking linebacker. And the first mistake of the season by Mo Wasamua gives BYU excellent field possession. Play action. Tavian St. Clair is going down. Sincere Edwards and Brenton Williams combine on the pressure. St. Clair going deep. A busted coverage leaves a man wide open for the touchdown. Waller the 3rd scores for the Cougars, giving them the lead as they strike first here in the game's final quarter. I don't know what happens. I think the corner just bit on something inside and it gave Waller the space he needed to score. Mo, 2nd and 4, just holding on to the ball too long. That'll bring us back for a longer 3rd down. Can we convert? Mo back to pass again. Plenty of time again. Just couldn't really find anywhere. That kind of looked like a 4-vert situation. I don't love that every 3rd and long is 4 verts in this game. So unless you're the Cougars, I guess every 3rd long is like a screen. But this one blown up in the backfield for a big loss. Despite the pair of really strong running backs for BYU, we've done a good job for the most part in the run game. In fact, their best runner has actually been Tavian St. Clair. BYU trying to extend their lead to 10. It will be a long field goal to do it, and it is off the upright and in for the Cougars. That's crazy. Nearly a miss. Barely a 2-score lead here. Anthony DeBeer on 2nd and 3, spinning into a 1st down. 3rd and long now. This is where Mo usually holds on to the ball a bit too long. This time, though, he finds a man quickly. It's Marquis Blunt. Haven't heard his name called much. It's been Anthony DeBeer with a heavy favored workload in the backfield for sure. Shakir Chubb with the catch. Dorian Thomas, 7 catches for 123 yards for the blocking tight end in this game. Mo into the flats, finds our other tight end. It's Meyer Swinney into the end zone, and we are back to a 3-point ball game. 2.5 minutes remain. We have all 3 timeouts. We need a stop here. 2nd and 3. The Cougars will pick up a first. That's the last first, though, that we can allow. We need to get the ball back. 1 timeout left. Still the 2-minute warning as well. The give is stopped for a loss of 2. That's how we want to start it. The Gremlins will use their final timeout. We need 2 plays, giving up less than 12 yards. They go to the air, greedy. They'll pick up 5, and that's going to bring up the 2-minute warning here. Assuming we get the stop here, we'll have a little bit more than a minute with no timeouts to get into field goal range. Can we get it done? Our offenses look pretty solid today. Tavian St. Clair, though, will burn us one last time. He's been burning us all afternoon, and he will get the last laugh. BYU in victory formation. They convert a 3rd and 7 to win the ball game, but this was a very close game and was really throughout. BYU got off to that really good start, but then we got the momentum back, tied it back up, and you can see with that 14-0 third quarter. Ultimately, we just weren't quite good enough in this game. Tavian St. Clair had his way pretty much, and then the 1 interception off Samoa. This is one of those games, though, that a couple of different bounces from the ball, and you could have easily seen us winning, which was so different from the performance that we got last year from this team. And so, despite the loss, this is a very encouraging game for me. BYU is pretty good, and they have a really highly rated quarterback, one of the best in the nation. So they will likely be one of our toughest opponents this year. And so my feelings that this could easily be a bowl caliber team. Again, despite the loss, I think we're validated in today's game. Who would have thought the blocking tight end would have led us in receiving yards in this game? Not me. I'll say that. A couple sacks here in the game, no picks. And of course, the fumble 6 by Vic Burley. Now, unfortunately, I accidentally had my microphone on mute when I recorded the recruiting part post the BYU game, but I'll do my best here to portray the thoughts after the fact that I usually like to do in real time here. Daniel Mears, we are now 6th on his board. We made more progress than anybody except Colorado. Looks like Colorado really likes him to the point where I think it's not super likely we're going to end up with Mears. Taking a look at just other potential options, though, I mean, there's Austin Dillard, who's a 6'6" contested specialist, but I mean, he'd transfer right away as soon as he upgraded at all, because we're already at his deal breaker, and then that's really it. So we could either stick with Mears and try to beat out Colorado, who is the current leading opponent, or we could go for a guy that we might have a better chance of getting, but it'd be like a 1-year rental. So, you know, just because we have the ability to go after a 5-star based on last year's results doesn't mean that we are going to actually get one. And I think in this case, we're ultimately just going to be unlikely to get one, at least one long term. Like I said, that receiver had a chance maybe to eventually come here just because he's a little under recruited, but it wouldn't be for long. Taking a look at our other prospects, though, things are looking good for Esteban Sousa here. Kansas State is definitely in the mix, though, for him. Brody O'Neill, the 2 Utah schools that are more highly touted are both above us, but I think the progress we made is looking really good there. Clocked in is looking like it's gonna be an okay sell. An A+, a C+, and an F is pretty much right on par, but we're hoping that a week 4 visit against UCLA will be the big difference here. We have a complimentary visit coming up, and one thing I want to do is I want to add Zach Crispin to that so we can get a double complimentary visit boost among offensive linemen. You know, last year I was spurned heavily on the offensive line, and I don't want to have that happen again. So I'm hoping with Vierling, O'Neal, and then Crispin eventually that a good visit week against UCLA will be the difference between what happened last year, losing out at the final seconds, and what could hopefully be more wins this time around. Definitely want O'Neal. He's a Utah kid. And even though we don't get a good proximity to the home boost, we do get a good pipeline boost. Willie Byard, we are the only ones going after him, so we'll continue to put 25 points there. Montel Blade, Miami and Nebraska are both showing some pretty good interest, but we still made more progress than either of them in this last week. RJ Neely, we are by far the most going after him. Zach Crispin, USC remains in the lead, but the progress we made is a lot more there. So I think he'll be a good third addition. Ben McClendon, Tulane remains in first, but we made more progress than Tulane by a little bit. Not by much, honestly. He's got 87 speed. He's definitely not bad, but I don't know how good he is, you know what I mean? So the question is, do we keep this guy who's being heavily recruited on our board, or do we use those hours to go from 40 up to 50 on some of our other players that are guys that I want a little bit more? It's tough because I do still think we made more progress than Tulane, but ultimately he's got 87 speed, so I'm going to go elsewhere for the time being. That'll allow me to put back in full hours here, which I think could also, even though, you know, it's 10 hours, but it could be the difference between winning and losing with some of these offensive linemen especially. And then we'll put some more hours into Byard as well. There are 5 hours remaining. Another thing we could do is we could take 10 of those hours back off to get a visit scheduled, which is probably actually the best use of our hours, so we'll do that. It won't be UCLA. That's our offensive lineman complimentary visit week, but the next week going up against Illinois, who is currently ranked top 25, we could get potentially a visit going with a guy like Sousa here. Could be a complimentary boost. I believe our linebackers and defensive linemen complimentary. I'm not 100% sure if I'm being honest, but playing time boost there. That will be how we will use our hours here for this week of recruiting. The squad would pick up their first win of the season with a 29-12 victory on the road against North Carolina here. In terms of stats, not a good game for Moa Samua. 0 touchdowns, 2 picks. 55% from the completion is not great, but what a day on the ground. We got 18 for 88 from Anthony DeBeer and Marquis Blunt, putting in 3 touchdowns. Shakir Chubb was our leading receiver in the game. Yannick Smith had a bit of a bounce back, but just was not our best game passing-wise. We did get 2 picks from the senior Jordan Shaw. Sacks-wise, Vic Burley came in with 2. Anthony Lacumbo back-to-back weeks with sacks. Earl Durham, our other freshman, getting in there with a sack, as did Brenton Williams. when it comes to a recruiting update, you'll notice that we're going through these non-conference games pretty quick. Last season, we focused a lot on the non-conference schedule and kind of fast forward through a lot of the conference games. Gonna be a little bit opposite this time around. We did end up getting what we wanted here in terms of Zach Crispin getting into his top 5, allowing us to get him on that double complimentary visit. Now, if we beat UCLA, that's going to go a long way toward getting Brody O'Neill in for the squad, Veerling into the squad, and now Crispin into the squad. So we know 2 here. One of them is an F. Apparently we are doing really bad at something. Is it allowing sacks? I hope it's not this. It's not the only thing. If it is, that does lower our chance of ultimately getting him, and it is that, dang it. An A, a D-, and an F is not worth switching off of sending the house. We're just going to have to hope that USC and Oregon don't start putting in more hours, and we're going to have to hope that that week 4 visit is an absolute banger for Zach Crispin here. It'd be our first time we'd be getting a... It'd be our first time getting a rivalry win as well, which would be really nice. He was the only guy to reach his top 5. Let me just make sure we have the right cells on all these guys. It looks like we do so far. 30 hours left to play with. We can't schedule any more visits for the time being, as Sousa, he will hit his top 5 next week, so we'll be able to schedule that visit then. What we could do is probably, we could put him at 50, but that would only leave us with 10 hours on the week. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to put him down to 25, use these 35 to put a new player on our board instead. No surprise, as the Gremlins would pick up a win against FCS West, dropping 50 points on them, 20 in the fourth quarter. That's really nice. 325 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks for Asamoah. Nice to see no picks on the board after 2 of the previous game. 143 yards on the ground for DeBeer. I mean, Marquis Blunt has been getting his nose in the end zone. Don Brackett with his first career touchdown. We got 10 for 91 for Tyler Nystrom here. Shakir Chubb scored in this game, as did Dorian Thomas. Looks like he is injured, though. Hopefully nothing serious. In terms of sacks, Sincere Edwards, Platt, and Burley on the list there. And then 2 for Jordan Shaw, who's been a bit of a ball hawk early here. We did get some forced fumbles here. 1 forced fumble, but 2 recoveries. Interesting. But obviously a good game all around. And that's going to be the end of our non-conference schedule here. Next episode, we'll be having our big visit week, starting with UCLA, now ranked number 18. Both teams 2-1. Let's just see what the overalls are. We actually are a higher overall than UCLA. We were also a higher overall than BYU. That didn't go so well, although we were a higher overall than North Carolina, and that did. This is going to be a very important week. Wisconsin is making a ton of progress for BJ Veerling. It's now or never with him, but good thing we have that visit this week. Utah is pulling ahead of Brody O'Neill. I don't know why this game refuses to ever let me recruit offensive linemen, but not a great sell here for RJ Neely. But it's like right on that borderline where you have 1 bad, 1 good, and 1 mid, where it's probably just barely good enough. We're still making a little bit more progress than USC on a week-to-week basis. And, of course, we also have that visit. We have that week 5. So we have 65 hours. I want to set up a complimentary visit here. His is conference prestige, so we'll do that. So it looks like we might have the potential for a pretty good sell with Esteban here. Could be this, which the third one would be really bad in that case, which would be unfortunate. I was excited because the first couple prospects that I started selling had like really good hard sells. I was feeling good, but the last couple just really haven't been all that good. Up to second place here on Mears. Still not into his top 5 yet. Colorado is still making more progress per week, so it's going to come down to a complimentary visit, which we can probably make happen at some point. We're into the top 5 with Willie Byard, so we know what his motivations are. Do we want to go more points here? We have a D, a B, and an A. Still the only team really recruiting him, so we'll go. It's not this one. Which one is it? It's this one right here. Soft sell it for now. I want to see how much speed Clarence Shore has. 89 is good enough. So yet another receiver, but it's a 4-star receiver with no offers. We just barely can't put 50 hours into him. I don't know if there's really anybody we can take any off of, though, is the thing. Oh, man, this one's going to come down to the wire. We likely get either a recruiting battle or a commit from BJ Vierling, one of the two, next week, which will be next episode. I mean, we could maybe take the 10 point. Yeah, we could probably take the 10 points off here. Make it 5 instead. This is probably the best use of our points. 0 points here left. Everybody, we're either selling or... Oh, no. Blade here. We have Coach Prestige, Conference Prestige. Another one where one of them is just terrible. Could be this. Ooh, that's really towing the line on what's worth it to sell. Could be this, which you would hope it would be. How close are we with... These other guys aren't trying that hard, so I'm going to try and hope it's this one. If it's not, we'll know it's the other one, and we'll know we don't have the best sell. But there you have it. Here is our plan for the end of the episode. UCLA on the schedule. Another rivalry game, back-to-back rivalry spotlight games here in the season. We'll probably watch all 3 of our rivals play this year. In fact, that's coming up in the next episode, as well as some tight recruiting battles. Hope you enjoyed the episode, and we'll be back soon with another. Until then, go Gremlins.